Hey, what's going on? This is Tim Radicek, your freeform community DJ, and I hope you enjoyed K-Sound. You can catch them every Saturday night from 10 to midnight. Coming up in just a few short minutes is my show, the LOERadio Show. We got very special guests in studio, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. I'm going to get it started here with a couple of tracks that are a little bit anti-establishment, because we've got some news to talk about concerning the establishment this morning. Stay tuned, the LOERadio Show is coming up right here on WNUR-FM's freeform programming.
The LOERadio Show has been known to play some music and say some words that could be very well interpreted as inappropriate by some of the more sensitive and younger listeners out there in Radioland. Fortunately for LOERadio, WNUR-FM finds this type of talk, ideas, and media to be artistically and culturally significant for the greater good of mankind. We are only allowed to broadcast this type of entertainment between a very specific set of hours due to the current indecency tolerance of the faculty, which is, for some arbitrary reason, 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m., rather than the official guidelines drawn up by the FCC regarding safe harbor for all of radio.
That's right, kids. It's the LOERadio Show here in WNUR-FM, Evanston in Chicago. My name is Tim Radicek, your freeform community DJ for the last couple of years. And I'm joined in studio with a special guest. Jay Sal, the mixologist, is on his way, so he'll be arriving shortly. But as I mentioned, our special guest in studio tonight is a YouTube content creator, as well as a social observer with great commentary. I'd like to introduce you to one Mr. Ian. Ian, what's up, buddy?
Yo, pleasure to be here.
How we doing, sir?
Mildly tired.
Mildly? I mean, it's only just after midnight here. Actually, it's 12:22 in the a.m. on this beautiful Sunday morning, just steps away from glorious Lake Michigan. I don't know if you saw how close we actually are to the lake, Ian.
On the map I did, however, I can't see anything at night.
Yeah, it gets pretty dark over here by Lake Shore. But we got a lot of show for you lined up this morning. What I'm going to call this show is The World is Burning, or The Summer of Rage, whichever you prefer, because there's a lot of things happening in this country that is whipping people into a frenzy. Starting it all off would be the most recent killing of a victim by police in Charlotte, North Carolina. It sparked what I want to call a protest, but it appeared to be more like a riot. On top of that, there was a shooter who killed 5 in a Washington mall earlier this week. God bless those who lost loved ones in that attack. There have been no ties to anything terroristic. But even though you walked into a mall and shot up 5 people, you should be considered a terrorist. Do you agree, Ian?
Yes, absolutely.
That is a form of terrorism. Even though the definition of terrorism is described by Oxford as some sort of political thing, if you call us terror to anybody, you're a terrorist. That's just the way I see it. Also, earlier this week, the FBI was grilled by Congress over a lack of cooperation surrounding Hillary Clinton's emails. There's no surprise there. Hillary was also on Zach Galifianakis' show in an attempt to humanize her amongst some ferns. Trump also thinks Chicago needs a stop and frisk law. I can't say that I am against that. I mean, if you're in a problem neighborhood where gun violence is a common occurrence, stop and frisk isn't that bad of an idea. At least I don't think so. But that doesn't mean I'm a Trump supporter, so let's not get that mixed up. If you're interested in calling the show, the area code and phone number to do so is area code 847-866-WNUR. I won't be taking calls right away, but as we get into the more critical topics, I will certainly allow people to weigh in with any opinions they may have. Chicago to introduce another cigarette tax and become the nation's highest. $13.50 for a pack of cigarettes isn't enough. They need to charge you $15.50.
I'll bet you one pack of cigarettes that's not going to do anything for the rates of smokers or cancers.
No, not at all. In fact, it may even increase cancers and new users to tobacco products. They also were talking about pushing the age to 21. Have you heard anything about that?
None at all. Then again, this is happening so quickly, a lot of what you're reading now is the first I've heard of it.
Really? Excellent. Glad we're bringing you some breaking news.
At least I can at least vouch that I'm being informed.
Excellent. Also, former Congressman Anthony Weiner in the news again. He's accused of sending pictures of his naughty bits to a 15-year-old. That's grounds for, immediate lockup. I don't know. This guy's got a problem with keeping it in his pants, and he's still trying to run for office.
At this point, headlines are just punchlines. I feel sorry for the comedians out there.
It should make for an hour's worth of material right there.
I think we should have several days' worth.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine if Carlin was still alive, he'd have 5 more specials. Arrieta was looking fantastic earlier this week as the Cubs are cruising into October and ready for the playoffs. Sox are packing their bags and headed to the offseason. Bears are looking miserable, beat up by Carson Wentz in Philadelphia last Sunday. They go on to face, who knows, we'll get to that and more in sports later. The Northwestern Wildcats, who are 1-2 going into tonight's game versus the Cornhuskers. Cornhuskers.
Dude.
Nebraska is now 4-0. The Cats are now 1-3. The Cornhuskers were actual winners this evening with a final score of 24-13. Riot Fest ended last Sunday with a Misfits Danzig reunion. That should have been exciting if you were there. And finally, Samsung Galaxy 7 owners are being asked to not take their phones on airplanes because of exploding batteries. Have you seen this, Ian?
No, but I have heard about it. Then again, it doesn't surprise me.
Poorly manufactured batteries are bursting and causing extreme cases of phone melting spontaneously. It's very interesting to see. There's actually a video of a couple sitting at a restaurant when it happens, and it looks like the phone becomes a torch, starts spraying fire out of a small hole. I don't know the chemical combustivity or any of that science that goes along with it, but
it has nothing to do with science or chemistry or even electronics. It's all the demon trying to escape.
That's what it is.
How do you explain this long-range sorcery?
I don't know.
I want you to see my phone. This is the phone I've got. I've got an old Nokia brick. I can use this thing to stop a tank.
What I'm looking at here is the equivalent to a small calculator.
Yeah, I'm old school.
There's no touchscreen, I'm guessing?
Not at all. I don't think I even have a game on here. None at all.
You probably wouldn't want one anyway.
I get addicted so quickly.
There's only one phone game that I play now, and it's Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
I've seen this.
It's actually pretty cool. I mean, I haven't spent $1 on it, but I've put in plenty of hours to unlock some of the characters. According to HeyJackass.com, our unofficial sponsor for the LOERadio show, as of September, total shot and killed in Chicago is 49. Total shot and wounded is 243. Total homicides in Chicago for the month of September are 52. The violence here in Chicago just continues to get awful. I don't know if a protest is going to solve that.
Protests are probably going to just add to the violence in the figures. They usually do.
They do. And finally, on this day in music, the September the 25th, on this day in history, Elvis released his second single on Sun Records, Good Rockin' Tonight, a song made popular in '48 by Waynone Harris. Never heard of him. 1964, The Temptations begin recording My Girl, which went on to be the first U.S. #1 and first of 15 U.S. top 10 hits on the charts. That's a incredible. The Beatles cartoon series premiered on ABC TV in 1965.
Whoa, there was a Beatles cartoon series?
According to this website, yes.
There is no God.
There is no God. Isn't that what Lennon believed? There was no God? Or maybe he was extra religious. In 1968, Welsh singer Mary Hopkins was number 1 in the UK's singles chart with Those Were the Days. Not to be confused with the intro to, what's that Archie Bunker TV show? Those were the days.
I'm having a complete mind melt right now.
I forget. But anyway, that's about it for the recap of the week. I would take a short music break, but we just came out of one, so let's get into some Chicago news quickly. There's some groups holding peace events across the city on Saturday, according to ABC7 News. Groups held peace events across Chicago Saturday. Churches and groups across the Chicago area held events as part of a 1-hour call for peace Saturday as a response to the rising violence in the city. How effective do you think this was?
This is the first I've heard of it, like I said before. I'm actually hoping this is able to reach members in the community. I'm saying drop the media, talk to the actual people.
Yeah, I mean, the media is only giving you nothing but conflicted tales anyway. We'll get to that in a little bit. The events took place around noon to 1 o'clock Saturday at dozens of locations across the area, including New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, St. Sabina, and North Park University, which is right behind my old high school, Von Steuben. The groups are calling for unity and solidarity throughout Chicago to combat violence and its causes holistically, increased media and public attention to the many local, often overlooked initiatives that address violence and its causes, and increased resources for neighborhoods and communities most impacted by the violence. Leaders that took part include Father Michael Fledger of St. Sabina, Dr. Michael Emerson of North Park University, Rami Nashashibi of the easy name he's got there, of the Inner City Muslim Action Network, and many more. To see a map of participating areas, click here for more information. You can check that out at chicagopeace.net. So the violence has sprung up some peace movements. I'm pro-peace. How about you, Ian?
Absolutely. I'd prefer people get to something constructive, and they can't do that if they're busy burning down neighborhoods.
No, not at all. Or turning cars over, or blocking highways like idiots. Who does that? Why, when you're going to protest something, an injustice that you believe is brought upon you by some government establishment, why are you going to take it out on average people trying to get to work?
The only thing you're ending up achieving is making your own side look terrible.
That's right. You're not doing anybody any favors by making it an issue amongst your peers. You have to take it. You want to protest, take that to like a courthouse. Why are you going to vandalize the local shoe shop or the Cricket wireless store? Just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if you remember the what's it called? The overpasses for impeachment movement.
No.
Protesters who wanted to impeach Obama would set up on overpasses, and they'd put up signs and hold banners. Several of them would actually do so on the path I normally take to get to work. And every time they would do this, they would cause a backup in traffic that would go back, no joke, minimum 12 miles. Sometimes it would be gridlocked, and people getting distracted by the signs and everything that they've got up there would just end up causing fender benders, accidents.
Rubbernecking.
Rubbernecking was the worst.
Yeah.
On the worst day, I passed by no less than 5 separate incidents just caused by the protesters set up where they were. You're not making anyone consider your points. All you're doing is making them angry at the group that set them up there.
Yeah. And it's not good. I mean, you're not even inciting the right group of people to get your point across. Like I said, if you're gonna protest, get some picket signs, go sit out front of your congressman's house. Why do you gotta stand on the highway and block regular traffic? That's ridiculous. I can't get over that. In a story from the Chicago Sun-Times, a Chicago priest is charged in a child porn case, but he posts bond. This guy looks like a real creep, man.
I haven't heard a lot about these kind of cases in a while.
Yeah, I know. It's because it's overshadowed by racial violence and tensions across this country. Like, there is seriously a divide happening in this country right now. There might even be another civil war.
Well, I think it's important to remember there's what is being reported in the media and then what's being observed by the common people.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of there's a little bit of a fall off there between what's actually happening and what the media is reporting. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I've got a good video clip I want to share with you and get your opinions and feedback on. Octavio Munoz, a 40-year-old Chicago priest accused of possessing child pornography, has posted $50,000 bail and is free on electronic monitoring, authorities said on Friday. A family member put up the money to secure Munoz's release, a Cook County jail spokesman said Friday. I'm glad you got caring family that would bail you out in a child pornography bust.
I was going to say, the money had to come from somewhere, and wasn't there a vow of poverty involved with being a priest?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, could be his brother, his stepmom, or somebody. Next line here says, Munoz only had $2,000 in savings, his lawyer said at the bond hearing Wednesday. Munoz is charged with a single felony count after investigators hired by the Archdiocese of Chicago found a video of prepubescent boys engaging in sex acts on a computer that belonged to the priest, prosecutor said. Police still are sorting through hundreds of DVDs and VHS tapes seized in the search of Munoz's home, Assistant State's Attorney Guy Lisuzo said Wednesday. Investigators also found child-sized underwear and magazines depicting young boys.
You can't see this, but I'm grimacing right now.
I can almost hear your teeth grinding. You're pulling such a facepalm here. Munoz was director of Casa Jesus, or Casa Jesus, House of Jesus, at 750 North Wabash, an archdiocese program that recruited Spanish-speaking candidates for the priesthood locally and internationally. Munoz left that post in July 2015 to become a pastor at St. Pancreatic.
I'm always afraid to pronounce anything that I haven't encountered before.
Yeah. Well, I've never heard of St. Pancratius at 4025 South Sacramento in the Brighton neighborhood. Munoz's successor as rector of Casa Jesus entered Munoz's apartment with an archdiocese employee on July 7th of 2015 while Munoz was not home. Among the moving boxes stacked in Munoz's apartment, the two saw the video of a young boy masturbating, playing on the screen of the laptop next to Munoz's easy chair.
Who leaves that just playing?
He must have been in a hurry. Where he was going, I don't know. The employee waited a week to report what he had seen to the archdiocese. Yeah, because, a week is enough time to think about what you're going to do. Thinking that the new rector...
wait, what?
Rector.
Yeah, okay.
Had already notified his superiors after meeting with Munoz. A spokeswoman for the archdiocese said Friday that the rector told church officials he did not see anything inappropriate in Munoz's apartment, but hired Hillard Heinze, a private investigations and security firm, to search Munoz's computer immediately after receiving the complaint from the employee. Those investigators were unable to locate the laptop identified by the employees. Goes on to say an arrest warrant was issued for Munoz on August 28th, and he was arrested in Maryland where he was in treatment at the St. Luke Institute, a Catholic facility that specializes in treating clergy for an array of problems, including sexual issues, in quotes. That's not a sexual issue. That's a pedophilic issue.
Well, sexual issues are what they found under the bed.
Yeah. According to its website, Tony Ryan said privacy laws prevented the archdiocese from disclosing details about Munoz's stay at the facility. Munoz's lawyer, Raymond Weigel, said Wednesday that Munoz was not being treated for sexual issues. He should be treated to a guillotine at St. Luke's. He also noted that someone else may have had access. Okay, right. It wasn't me. It was somebody else in my apartment. BS, dude.
Headlines are punchlines.
It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, I gotta talk about this stuff because obviously it's not making the rounds like a Brad Jelena split. So, I mean, I'm just doing what I can as a journalist to inform people of what's happening in Chicago. Speaking of which, if you'd like to weigh in on these issues, you can call the show, area code 847-866-9687. We got a couple of more news stories here out of Chicago that we'll talk about.
Please no, this is depressing enough as it is.
A Chicago mumble rapper, that's what we call trill rappers here in Chicago, Famous Dex, was caught on video assaulting a female. This guy is, he's a real creep. And I'm going to play the video here for Ian.
Let's take a look at this.
Looks like he's assaulting her over some argument. Wow, he's got her on the ground, knee in her back, couple of elbows.
He backed her into a corner and then started going at it.
I think he wanted her phone. She wouldn't give it to him, so he... Ooh, damn. Man. This guy's a real piece of work. Let's hear what he sounds like.
I'm not sure I want to hear this.
You probably
switch
don't.
It up. Well, what? Yeah. I had to switch it up.
You had to switch it up, Ian.
I'm fucking your girl. I got AK on the grill. A bitch.
Oh, boy.
Hey, yo. Oh, whoa. I turned it up into the party. Yeah, switch it up.
I'm going to hit the captions on the bottom of the video and see what happens.
This could be gold.
Oh, there are none. You can't even activate him. This is not Chicago rap, man. This is not at all what represents Chicago hip hop. Let's get to the bars already. What kind of flow has he got?
The standard rule: if you're wearing it, you don't have it.
In videos, yeah. He's not even driving the car even.
So I had to switch it up. I got me a 6-1 pouring up. A rose pouring up a cup. I'm high as hell, man, I'm throwing up. Oh wait, little bro, you taking no days. Oh, little bro, you late.
I don't even know what to say, man, but that's about all we got time for. Famous Dex. Garbage. Absolute nonsense.
The message of his video appears to be he has money and wants it stolen.
Or, yeah, something like that. What else is going on in Chicago? A severed head was found in McGinley Park Lagoon. How do you just find a random severed head? Well...
No, forget that. How do you lose a random severed head?
Yeah. I'm going to assume it was part of a crime. And maybe the head was separated from the body in a different location. But according to the Chicago Tribune, the severed head was found in a bag at McKinley Park Lagoon. There's a video clip we will play here, which appears to be just cops digging up a little area next to the lagoon.
So let me get this straight. You try to get rid of a piece of evidence by dumping it somewhere public, and you put it in a watertight container that is ensuring that it will not decompose the way you need it to decompose in order for it to no longer be usable evidence.
Or sink.
Yeah.
To where nobody will find it floating at the surface of the lagoon.
If you're going to make such an effort to remove the head from the body, why not strip the rest of the flesh and put it on display?
Yeah, Buffalo Bill style.
Skulls for the skull throne.
You puts the lotion on the skin.
And I can't make a comment about that.
A worker found what was believed to be a human head Friday morning in a bag at McKinley Park Lagoon, leading to the discovery of other body parts in the lagoon as well, officials said. Police were called to Lagoon at 2210 West Pershing Road at about 10 a.m. after someone at the lagoon found what appeared to be a human remains left in the lagoon. How many times are you going to write lagoon in this article? Said Officer Nicole Traynor. A police spokeswoman, area central detectives were conducting a death investigation. Police News Affairs would not detail what was found, but officials said what was believed to be a person's head was found in a bag.
What was believed to be? You can't check this?
You can't identify a head? Like, did it have ears, a nose, a mouth? Did it have hair? It was not known if the head was that of a man or a woman. Would they shave it, like, and then pull the teeth out? Like, that's going through some extra steps if that's how it was found. The person was believed to be black, but I'm not laughing at that. I'm sorry. But investigators have not been able to determine the person's sex, he said. A Chicago Park District contract crew responsible for cleaning the lagoon made the discovery, another official said. The crew cleans the lagoon about once a week, and one of the usual people who cleans the lagoon spotted a bag floating in the water at some distance out in the lagoon. If I had $1 for every time this article said lagoon, the source said.
I actually think that's why they put the word lagoon in there.
They were getting paid per lagoon.
Yeah, of course.
The crew member or another person on the crew called police, the source said. So stay away from McKinley Park if you want to keep your head on your shoulders. It seems like the right thing to do. I'm not too familiar with McKinley Park, but I know I won't be there anytime in the future.
Well, bear in mind, like in the last couple of days, how close was it to hear that the young woman was hit by, what was it, a truck or a bus?
A pedestrian?
Yeah. Well, she was on a bike, and there was a mistake in. There was a misinterpretation in the traffic signals, and she was tragically hit and killed.
So, like, both sides of the light were green or something?
She was on a bike, so I think it said she was from China, and bikes are a lot more common in China.
Right.
I'm guessing there was a confusion about how traffic laws work.
Maybe.
Or at the very least, how bikes are supposed to operate within traffic lights like that.
And killed on bike.
It was right here in Evanston, I think.
Woman 61 hit and killed while riding her bicycle in northern Michigan?
No, it was here in Evanston. It made it sound like she was a student here, or nearby at least.
First year NU student from China struck, killed while riding bike.
That sounds like it might be it.
A first-year Northwestern University student from China died after she was struck by a cement truck while riding her bike in Evanston Thursday evening, according to police and school officials. Chuyewan Kui, 18, was turning out of the lot of the university, probably right where you pulled in, Ian.
Yeah,
when
that's not comforting at all.
When she was hit by one of the truck's wheels in the 2000 block of Sheridan. That is right here. Around 5 p.m. Evanston Police Chief Richard Eddington said at the scene. She was knocked off the bike and rolled under the truck, he said. She just misjudged the speed of the truck, Eddington said, or didn't realize how long the truck was. A tragic accident. Kui was unresponsive when Evanston paramedics arrived. She was taken to Evanston North Shore University Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. No citations were issued to the truck driver, a 38-year-old Des Plaines resident, police said. Kui was from Nanjing, China, and had just started at Northwestern wasn't it barely into the school year. According to Dean of Students Todd C. Adams, she was a member of the Kaplan Humanities Scholars Program. I wonder if that's David Kaplan. Adams said counseling was being offered for students. The loss of any one member of our community affects us all, and it does so in different ways, he said. Grieving is normal when experiencing loss, and our friends and our colleagues can be helpful in lending an ear or giving their time, particularly when we let them know it is needed. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Kui, a Northwestern student who was killed Thursday in a tragic bike accident, which I wouldn't have known unless Ian brought it to the table. So kudos to you, sir.
Thank you, and you're welcome. I think her name might be pronounced Chu, but I don't know how the Chinese language is anglicized.
That's a good point. I am not very cultured, so I wouldn't know either way if I was saying it right or incorrect. If anybody knows, feel free to call station, area code 847-866-9687. Again, that number is area code 847-866-WNUR. We're about to get into our first music break here, and we've got just a few more short stories here. One that grabbed my attention was I was reading over the website this morning was from the Chicago Tribune. Prosecutors, a teacher is allegedly placed a camera under a sink in a grade school bathroom. Again, with these creepy pedophiles, man, what is going on in this country? I believe the world needs a hero, something like Batman or Deadpool. Deadpool would be nice.
Deadpool would be intriguing for some of this.
Yeah, right. He'd have great commentary as it all happened, that's for sure. A former music teacher at a near North Side elementary school is accused of placing a camera under the sink of a public bathroom just down from his classroom and recording at least one child who was his student. Elliot Knott, 41, was charged with 7 felony counts of unauthorized videotaping and 1 felony count of child pornography 2 weeks after the camera was discovered in a third-floor bathroom of Ogden International School at 24 West Walton Street. Not used putty to attach a motion-activated camera under a sink in a bathroom. Prosecutors said a search of the camera turned up multiple angles, images, and videos of school staff using the bathroom as well as an 8-year-old boy, prosecutors said. So he might have been trying to get like one of the other female teachers, but since children use the bathroom, it's wow, you're an idiot.
I'd like to know what kind of a bathroom this was, because what are you going to be seeing under a sink? Unless it's one of the single-person bathrooms where only one person is allowed in and the sink has no obstruction to the toilet.
That would be, that's a good observation there. I wish I knew what the layout of this bathroom looked like. The boy had been not student for 2 years and had special permissions to use that bathroom, so it sounds like a single-person bathroom. Something not new, according to Assistant State's Attorney Melissa Hewlett. The camera's existence came to light September 7th when an employee found a small black device with a lens and a red blinking light on the bathroom floor. Couldn't put a piece of duct tape over the light, huh? The camera was turned over to police, Hewlett said. About 2 days later, Knott checked himself in at Swedish Covenant Hospital for psychiatric evaluation, Hewlett said. Knott made a statement to a hospital social worker who in turn notified police at the Illinois Department of Child and Family Services, according to the prosecutor. Authorities got a search warrant for Knott's home and seized the computer, 2 cell phones, and other electronic media for forensic analysis, Hewlett said. Or Howlett. Police also took clothing from Knott's home that was matched clothing partially seen in a video as it was being placed under the sink in the bathroom, she said. So they got the outfit he wore the day he installed the camera.
Use gloves.
Yeah. Or don't do retarded stuff like that. Knott was dismissed from school, Ogden principal Michael Bayer said. He was hired in 2009 at Ogden to teach music to students in kindergarten through 5th grade and to coach track, according to an online biography. He studied voice and choral direction at Illinois Wesleyan University in Bloomington, where Knott's father was a professor. He taught in schools in New Hampshire, New York, Tennessee, and Minnesota. I wonder why he left. The article goes on to destroy Knott, but Knott was a standout track star for Normal Community High School during the 1990s, winning the 93 Class AA State, 1,600 meters. He was a former music director of the Broadway United Methodist Church. Is it weird that there's a church angle in this? Leaving in 2009, according to the church pastor, Reverend Alka Seltzer. No. Alka Lyall. Though Lyall has been with the church for a year, blah, 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 Judge Maria Kyriakos Cecil ordered not held on $75,000 bail. If he makes bond and is released from jail, he cannot have contact with any alleged victims and must surrender his passport. Is that it?
I think that might be it for that one. But I see what you mean.
This guy, they're taking away his passport and doing all this other stuff, but the priest charged in having photographs on his computer gets let out for $50,000. Like, what is the difference between the two? They should both get equally as much time in jail as well as the same fines for being creepy pedophilic idiots. Like, I don't get it.
This is a point of contention people have online a lot. And actually a lot of what I think is common ground between protesters and other people just discussing issues online, it's that the same rules do not appear to apply across the board. And I'd be willing to bet the protesters, the peaceful ones, just want the same rules that apply to common civilians to apply to police and vice versa.
Police, government officials, anybody with some sort of power. Because it seems like corporate entities have CEOs that can get away with things like this and just buy their way out of jail. You know what? The court system, I believe, favors people with money. And if you have no money, you're going to do time because they need to pay somehow. Somehow money needs to be exchanged in an arrest. I don't understand how it works, but I think that if you got enough money, you can buy yourself out of any situation.
I also think a lot of what is interfering there is a series of outdated laws. Most of them, I think, trace back to the initial war on drugs in the 1980s, where things on a corporate level are treated and punished differently than things on a more personal level.
Sure. Well, in the 80s, what are we talking? Like the Iran-Contras and the trafficking of cocaine being brought into L.A. by the CIA?
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah. I mean,
really questionable things like that.
Very questionable. There's a great clip of Michael C. Rupert, confronting the CIA director in L.A. as he was the chief of police there as the trafficking was going on. And he comes right out and says, listen, you guys are dealing drugs here. There's no way this cocaine gets into the country without the support of the CIA. And then they're distributing it to, like, the Bloods and the Crips here. And then showing them how to make crack. Isn't that wonderful? This is what you pay your CIA to do.
Taxpayer money at work, people.
That's right. Bringing you the finest in cocaine and heroin. We got a lot of more show for you lined up, and on the other side of this music break, we're gonna talk about the mayhem in Charlotte and some of the opinions that people may be having about what's going on in this country regarding athletes sitting down during the national anthem, or just bad reporting from the news. So our first break is going to feature a couple of artists. Like I said, it's a anti-establishment weekend here at WNUR. No, it's not. That's just for my show. Let's disassociate the anti-establishment angle from WNUR.
Says the radio host with an established time frame.
My name is Tim Radicek. You're listening to the LOERadio Show. My guest in studio is YouTube creator and social commentator Ian.
Yo.
And we'll be back on the other side of the break. But right now, I'm going to play some Mega Dirt, which I look for any reason to give it a whirl. So stay tuned, WNUR.
Hi, this is Ron Function. No, that's not my name. Use this whole thing. This is Ron Funches, and you're listening to Laughs or Else. I don't know what the or else is. I assume it's like crying.
The Laugh or Else radio show has been known to play some music and say some words that could be very well interpreted as inappropriate by some of the more sensitive and younger listeners out there in Radioland. Fortunately for LOE Radio, WNUR-FM finds this type of talk, ideas, and media to be artistically and culturally significant for the greater good of mankind. We are only allowed to broadcast this type of entertainment between a very specific set of hours due to the current indecency tolerance of the faculty, which is, for some arbitrary reason, 11:30 p.m. to 6 a.m., rather than the official guidelines drawn up by the FCC regarding safe harbor for all of radio.
That's right, we're back. It's WNUR-FM, Evanston and Chicago. My name is Tim Radicek, and you're checking out the free-form programming here that happens overnight at WNUR. During the week, it happens between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., but on the weekends, it's between 11:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. Joining me in studio usually would be my co-host, Jay Sal, the mixologist, but he apparently has the night off. But I'm joined in studio with special guest, YouTube creator, social commentator, Mr. Ian. Oh, try that again, Ian. Sorry.
Yo.
There you are.
I can hear myself.
Now you can, since I turned your mic on. It appears the entire country of America is straight out of line. Just a little bit of a pun there with the music. We had an issue in Charlotte, North Carolina earlier this week.
Issue is putting it lightly.
Yes, it would be putting it lightly. There's a lot of things to cover about what happened there, but first things first, a man was shot and killed by a police officer, and it was claimed that he was unarmed, but later it turned out that, hang on here, I've actually got a story, an article from Yahoo News here I'm going to play. Let me pot this music down a little bit. So it appears that police say there's video that shows Keith Lamont Scott had a weapon. And he wasn't just shot because cops are shooting people, and that's what they do. According to this Yahoo News article, we've got a bit of a news clip here that we'll play for you.
Breaking news, state of emergency in North Carolina after a second night of protests.
Take a look at these images. Demonstrators and police clashing as hundreds fill the streets there in Charlotte. Another violent night. At least 7 people, including 4 officers, injured.
And take a look at this morning's cover of the Charlotte Observer, showing an officer and a protester working together carrying a wounded man.
A lot of tension down there. And Robin, you speak with Charlotte Mayor Jennifer Roberts in just a moment. Let's get the latest first from ABC's Eva Pilgrim, who is on the scene in North Carolina. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, George. State of emergency. You can see the damage behind me. The windows of the shop broken. The inside of it flipped.
Because that's a peaceful protest.
Businesses here like Bank of America telling employees not to come into work today after another night of violent protests.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Overnight, protests turning violent, leaving one person on life support this morning after being shot by another protester, according to police.
Makes me sick. It doesn't have to be like this.
This was a peaceful protest. The critically injured man shot outside the Omni Hotel. Hotels trying to keep guests safe.
Do not go out.
Protesters marching into the heart of Charlotte, police in riot gear. As they fire tear gas to try and disperse the crowd. This trash can thrown into the Bank of America building. People looting the Charlotte Hornets team store, running out with armfuls of clothes. At least 7 people injured, including 4 police officers. This CNN reporter knocked over in the chaos. This man hit with tear gas. The protests in response to the fatal police shooting of 43-year-old Keith Lamont Scott, who was shot outside an apartment complex on Tuesday.
The police just shot my daddy 4 times for being black.
That's not why they shot him, lady.
Live streaming outside the scene. She says he was reading a book and unarmed. But police say Scott had a gun and wouldn't drop it, despite being told repeatedly to do so. Our affiliate WSOC obtaining this photo of what police say is the weapon recovered at the scene.
Mr. Scott exited his vehicle armed with a handgun as the officers continued to yell at him to drop it.
He got out his car, he walked back there so that they could comply, and obviously compliance still gets you murdered, because that's what happened.
Authorities identifying the officer who fired the shot as Brentley Vincent, also African American, and now on paid leave.
Renewed calls from the ACLU this morning for police to release any body cam or dash cam video they have that shows what happened. The police chief saying they will not release that video until this investigation is complete.
I heard something about that they did eventually release body cam video, but I'm gonna need somebody to point out where the objects in question are. The one image that they did release does kind of look like it might be a revolver, but it's still really far away to tell.
Yeah, the one picture that they did show, it just you couldn't really tell what kind of weapon it was. But apparently there was a weapon found, and this guy was not shot just because he was black. Anytime you've got a firearm, you're automatically a threat to police when they show up. Registered or unregistered, they're going to take some action. And apparently this was a lethal force. I'm trying to find the video clip here that I saw earlier. Oh, here we go. Moments leading up to the shooting. So this video may contain audio and images.
Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
That may be distressing.
He has no weapon. He has no weapon. Don't shoot him. Don't shoot him.
You can hear the cop saying, "Drop the effing gun," right there.
He didn't do anything.
Drop the gun. Drop the gun.
He doesn't have a gun. He has a TBI. He's not going to do anything to you guys. He just took his medicine. Keith, don't let them break the windows. Come on out the car. Keith, don't do it.
Don't do what?
Keith, get out the car. Keith, don't you do it. Don't you do it. Keith.
She knows he's got a gun, man. Why is she saying don't do it?
Did you shoot him? Did you shoot him? Did you shoot him? He better not be fucking dead. He better not be fucking dead. I know that fucking much. I know that much. He better not be dead. I'm not gonna come near you. I'm gonna record though. I'm not coming near you. I'm gonna record though. He better be alive, cause I'm coming. You better be alive. How about that? Yes, we're here over here at 9453 Lexington Court. These are the police officers that shot my husband, and he better live. He better live, cause he didn't do nothing to them.
What were they called to the scene for?
That is a good question.
I know he better live. I know he better live. How about that? I'm not coming to you guys, but he better live.
He's obviously not gonna live.
He better live. Y'all hear this and you see this, right? He better live. He better live. I swear he better live. Yep. He better live. He better fucking live.
That picture we saw was of this scene, but there was a piece.
He better fucking live, and I can't even leave the damn. I ain't going nowhere. I'm in the same damn spot.
It was the same angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Did y'all call the police? I mean, did y'all call an ambulance?
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking.
Her reaction seems off.
In what way?
We want to get right to that breaking news. State of emergency.
I'm having difficulty wording the thought here. It seems like she's less concerned about his safety and more concerned about putting the attention on the police. It's really peculiar. There's what's being said and how it's being said.
I understand what you're saying.
And what did she say? What did she say he had in
a TBI?
What is that?
I'm gonna guess it may be like some sort of inhibitor for medicine.
Okay, because that does not match the official report of reading a book.
Traumatic brain injury. He's got traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
So maybe he isn't thinking clearly. Maybe he doesn't have a weapon. I mean, but there's a picture of a gun laying next to this guy's body.
And I'd like to know where that came from.
Yeah, unless it was planted there, and it's not above on-scene investigators to try to cover up some stuff. So I wouldn't put it past them. But I mean, what are we what do we do, man? Cops, the next time anybody gets hurt or killed by a policeman in any city, there's going to be some sort of backlash from the public, because it's such a common occurrence now. Well, what I believe, it's not a common occurrence. It's not more common than it used to be. It's just more out in the open because of the internet. We've got access to information faster than the media can spin the story. It's like we've got video from people on the ground online before news people have a chance to even write news articles about it.
It's like they're becoming obsolete to a degree.
Yeah, and there's a good reason for that, because people don't even trust what they're being told anymore. I don't think that a news program should be surrounded by commercials, because that in itself dictates what kind of message you're going to put out to your viewing audience. There's prime examples of guests who are on late night talk shows who get edited out because sponsors may not agree with some of the material that these, say, a comedian is using in their set, So it's like if Bayer has a sponsorship to NBC News, and an NBC airs something that they won't air something that is showing Bayer in a bad light, like MSNBC. If Microsoft does something deplorable and it hurts all their customers, they're really not going to take that news article and put it at the featured article of their news cycle, So, there's just something to be said about how poor journalism is in this country right now. And it's kind of separating people because the confusion is causing a divide between people.
It's not just this country either. It's been noted in other places, Canada, Europe. Several European countries have run into problems where stories are being edited all across the world. Only one side of every issue is being covered.
Sure.
You can't trust what's being said on the news, and yet people are doing a better job. Common everyday people are doing a better job of being reporters and journalists just on forum boards, on social media.
Yeah,
YouTube.
Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit.
Yeah.
It depends a lot on the subreddits, but yeah, people will document this stuff. The last presidential election saw a rise in professional fact checkers who are doing a better job of reporting than the professional reporters. And these guys aren't getting paid for it. And since there's people all around the world contributing to all of this in every single time zone, it means the operations never cease. Just a regular social forum board can easily become its own source of news. And since everyone has easy access to a camera, pictures and video often accompany these posts.
That's true.
And they're not even limited as to what they're talking about. News, emergencies, major events, TV shows, movies, video games.
Right.
Reviews, product reviews, yeah.
Sure. Unboxings, product reviews.
The unboxings, they're sort of a spin-off, I would say. Definitely there's people talking about products, reliability, safety. And here's something that I think should be brought up. If somebody's reviewing a product and they find a flaw in the product that makes it unsafe, I think people who are spending money on it, or who might spend money on it, deserve to know about it.
Absolutely. Instead, companies will hand you a product and ask you to review it, and they'll tell you if you give a favorable review, we'll give you a few dollars, And that's you're compromising your journalistic integrity there, as to be that person to inform potential buyers of the product's, shortcomings or bugs or whatever. That's just the way it goes. I don't know. It's between the news and, like you were saying, like citizen journalism. You got ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and then you got DNA Info, Chicago.
Yeah.
You ever read DNA Info?
Sadly, I have not.
Oh, you can hear the same story told by Fox, CBS, and ABC, and then you go to DNA Info, and you're like, wow, well, they didn't even mention half of this article. Like,
yeah, that's something that you start seeing a lot of in journalism now. They'll only present one side, usually because either the company or the journalists themselves have already taken a side in this.
Absolutely.
They have a vested interest in a given topic going through.
Yeah,
right.
There's an inherent bias. And the reason we bring this up is because as I was watching, because I was in Dallas all last week and I had no idea, so I get home from work at about 9, and then all of a sudden at about 10:30, I flip to the news. You got Hannity, you got all these, Geraldos and all of them. They're all talking about what's happening there, and with every third sentence, peaceful protest. They're showing people hugging and holding hands. Well,
where's that now?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't talked about in what was going on out there. And there's an article from Paul Joseph Watson. I'm not sure if you know who he is.
No.
He's a reporter he was former reporter for InfoWars and Alex Jones. I believe he's gone out to do his own thing because of the craziness that Alex Jones is into. And this is the report. So give this a listen.
Harmonious Black Lives Matter activists staged a peaceful protest in Charlotte last night, but were brutally tear-gassed by racist cops. Oh, wait a second. Physically attacking reporters is not a legitimate form of protest.
Nope.
Shooting each other is not a legitimate form of protest.
Nope.
Stealing and looting cash registers from local businesses is not a legitimate form of protest.
Nope.
Trying to set journalists on fire is not a legitimate form of
but
protest.
Entertaining.
Throwing rocks off bridges at passing vehicles full of families is not a legitimate form of protest. Beating up innocent people in underground parking lots because they're white is not a legitimate form of protest. Smashing up apartment windows where black people live to protest in favour of Black Lives Matter is not a legitimate form of protest. Smashing up buses that poor black people rely on to get to their jobs is not a legitimate form of protest. Looting the Charlotte Hornets team store so you can steal basketball merchandise is not a legitimate form of protest. Stealing sneakers is not a legitimate form of protest.
Video
Attempting to hijack cars and terrify their innocent occupants is not a legitimate form of protest. But how did MSNBC report on all this? By calling the rioters peaceful.
The people that are out here protesting, they're hugging and they're like, they're being very peaceful.
We were following this crowd that was largely peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. We've also seen some sweet scenes of protesters hugging one another and praying. Mostly a group of peaceful protesters. Peaceful, 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 peaceful.
And that's why 94% of Americans don't trust the mainstream media. What's unfolding in Charlotte is objectively, manifestly, provably not a protest. It's a violent, unjustified riot by criminals, gang members, and thugs. Why is the media giving it legitimacy by still referring to it as a protest? If mobs of white supremacists were looting stores, setting fires, attacking journalists, and shooting guns, would the media call it a protest? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all this was completely justified because another racist white police officer killed an innocent unarmed black man who was merely carrying a book. Oh wait, he was actually killed by a black cop.
All white people are fucking devils.
But what kind of book was he carrying? Paperback? Hardcover? Oh no, it was a 9mm gun. Well, imagine my shock. So a black cop shoots an armed black thug with a criminal record, and then a black protester shoots another black protester. Yeah, must be white people's fault. I guess it's my fault for not checking my privilege. And how did de facto Black Lives Matter leader DeRay McKesson respond to the riots, the looting, the bloodshed, the mayhem, the violence? By tweeting, "We stand with you," because nothing says justice like destroying your own city and living up to the very stereotype about black people that you constantly complain about. Barack Obama also stands with this group, while billionaire white elitist George Soros bankrolls it to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Hillary Clinton has promised...
No, I saw the... I'm not believing what I saw,
George
by the way.
Soros is bankrolling the Black Lives Matter
Why?
movement. Because it's good for his whatever he does. Who the hell is Soros anyway?
White elitist George Soros bankrolls it to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Hillary Clinton has promised to change laws for them. They advocate killing cops. They've inspired mass murderers who have killed black cops. Their ideological guru is a convicted cop killer on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list. They've built an entire movement based around the completely fraudulent narrative that there's a racist war against black people being waged by cops. It's manifestly, provably not true. This is what they're protesting against, while none of them give a damn about this. Thanks to Black Lives Matter, more black people are killing each other because cops refuse to patrol these areas. Black Lives Matter is poison. It's doing incredible harm to race relations in America. It's giving gang member thugs an excuse to carry out criminal rampages. And it's resulting in more black people being killed by other black people. How many more cities need to burn before this reality is realized?
Peaceful, 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 peaceful.
Peaceful protests do not have that much fire.
No, and also if you're involved in a peaceful protest, why do you got to hide your face? What are you hiding from? Wouldn't you want your identity known, that you stand for whatever it is you're being oppressed by, or whatever injustices or illing your community? Like, you see the same thing in like those gatherings of like the extremists. They're all covered in head to toe with like flags on their face. If you stand for something, there's no reason to hide from it.
Something I just thought of in the video of the man being shot, the one who was actually like unintentionally the catalyst for the Charlotte riots.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps saying he has TBI. Do the police know what that means?
I don't think so. I mean, anybody with a little bit of medical training would probably know.
Yeah, we had to look it up, and I thought it was some kind of an object. So that shows you...
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That might not be a universal term that everyone understands.
No.
Another thing, this man died, and now his legacy is that Charlotte burns.
Right.
Not just Charlotte in general, but specifically the black neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
This riot is marring the name of a man who is dead. He may be, regardless of whether he was armed or unarmed, his epitaph is now millions of dollars in damages.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point.
Demolished homes, businesses. This is a scar the city of Charlotte will not soon live down.
No, and some people do see a protest as an excuse to go out there and cause damage and be criminal. There was a lot of instances of people looting shoe stores and basketball shops. Like, well, what's the point? What are you trying to achieve by busting windows out of like banks and all that in your neighborhood? That's not helping the situation. Like I say, you want to cause some disturbance? Go to City Hall, camp out in front of all your congressmen's house. Picket in front of their building. Get their attention, because they're the ones that are going to change the laws that are affecting your communities. And
there's actually going to be an additional long-term ramifications in the form of insurance. This is actually something that's still lingering from the race riots.
Oh, yeah.
From decades ago. If a population does something massively destructive to its own area, its own neighborhoods, the insurance companies will see that, and they will adjust their practices accordingly.
Oh, yeah, raising the rates on the insurance over there because there's potential that your place can be burned down in a fire due to a riot,
It's not just that. If you live on a floodplain, you're not going to get flood insurance.
Right.
If you live in an earthquake-prone area, they're going to be a lot more restrictive on what kind of coverage you can and cannot get. Likewise, if a population burns down its own area, That's how they're going to treat the insurance, as if the population itself is now a hazard. Please do not do that. All you are doing is reducing the kind of licenses and insurances that you can acquire in those areas to get locally owned businesses. That's why there are so many big-name franchises, because they get insurance on a much different level than they would on a family or an individual level to run businesses, bring money into the community, and keep it there. Sorry, but I just got really worked up about that.
No, but that's a good point. I mean, you know, what's the outcome? Well, I mean, as we discussed, the journalistic integrity in this country, especially amongst the mainstream media, is failing the people. You heard the two drastic different reports, one from the mainstream and then one from independent journalist. And, I mean, some of the things he talked about were that this is more like a riot than it is a protest.
And you'll notice he was commenting on the media's coverage of the story. The media is completely ignoring all black people who oppose the protests, riots, and Black Lives Matter.
That's a good point as well.
There's no shortage of them. You can find videos.
No, absolutely.
You can find their videos all over YouTube, their posts all over Twitter and Facebook. They are calling out the group as being a racist hate movement, and this is black people who live in low-income, high-crime neighborhoods that Black Lives Matter claims to be defending.
I believe it's gearing up to be a separatist movement. They want to separate, you know, black people from white people.
Oh, they're already doing it.
We saw how well that worked in the 60s in this country.
Well, it's happening again. There was the one of the university campuses in Southern California. They finally managed to get it segregated on racial grounds. I don't know how they managed to get that legalized.
What, like it's only for whites or blacks or what?
No, they have separate facilities that are equal in quality on the same campus for black people, just the black people.
So there's separate buildings for separate students.
Yeah, and if you happen to be a black student who opposes this, good luck. You're being forced into someplace you may not want to live.
Wow, man, where is this? Did you say?
I want to say it's a University of Southern California in LA, I think.
Because, you know, all the progressives out there in L.A. are just making their communities better by separating their citizens from each other. You know, there's nothing worse than dividing the people, because a division of a population is easily more conquerable than a unified front, you know? It's like, it's easier to control two separate groups of people than it is one unified group.
Well, if you pay attention to the discussions online, people are discussing this with no restrictions. They're discussing it openly. And people from all over the world, including different neighborhoods and social strata, are finding a lot of common ground. And they're discussing the problems objectively and trying to look for long-term solutions that do not involve fire and violence.
Right. Whereas the regular media is telling you, oh, you know, it's the white people are the cause of your problem, and if you want to do anything about it, you have to join a Black Lives Matter protest and burn your damn city to the ground. I don't get it, man. I'm not paid to observe and to analyze what's happening or to offer any qualifiable opinions about what direction it needs to go, because this is something that's just happening. It's not organic, you know. It's kind of being stirred up, like somebody's stirring the pot.
I can actually say something on these grounds.
Mm-hmm.
As a video maker, I also know several other people who make regular videos, short movies, things on the topic, and I've noticed a strange trend.
Okay.
They seem to want to really defend racism, sexism, or bigotry in general as the problem without offering any kind of actual solutions for it. They need the problem to be bigotry in order for them to continue capitalizing off of it. If the problem goes away, what are they going to make videos about?
Right.
What are they going to demand on their Patreon?
It's the mainstream version of clickbait is what it is.
Yes.
You got a hot button topic, you put a flashy article headline on there, and then people are like, oh, you know, And then when you listen to the actual report, you're like, well, that doesn't sound nothing like the headline.
And then there's people who are having, like I said, the open discussions, asking black people who suffer from these problems every day about the specifics. And then the black people who live in these in low-income, high-crime neighborhoods that have the problems are openly discussing the mechanics.
Right.
And once you understand how a problem forms, you can start trying to correct it in the long term. A lot of the problems are outdated legislation that is in desperate need of either repeal or, at the very least, update. But no one's talking about that. They need to sell their narrative.
So what do you think the steps moving forward should be? What is your opinion of what a community or who needs to step in and say something, or what kind of guidance do we need and from where?
Well, first, I would say the mainstream media and journalists need to cover all sides of a discussion.
Never happen. It'll never happen.
I'm aware of this, but it really does need to be talked about, because it's not. I'm trying to think of how to. I'm getting really frustrated here. I'm very sorry, but
that's all right. I'm sorry I put you on the spot, man. It's like, it seems to be a trend that is going to continue. There's going to be more and more of this going on as we approach, the coming months and years. The ultimate boiling point is going to be some sort of occupation by the armed National Guard. Like,
I have something positive about that as well.
Do you possibly see some sort of shutdown by some sort of mandatory laws or martial law kind of situations?
I think at least one side is going to try and force it, but like I said, I'm in a lot of these discussions online, or at the very least observed the discussions, and it seems a lot more common that people are speaking out against the protests, against the protesters, and seem to genuinely want a peaceful solution.
Right. Now, with any peaceful protest, you're going to have a handful of idiots, knuckleheads out there who want to bust up some police cars or turn some shops inside out or set fire to a gas station.
And it's that way on every side, no matter what the rally is. Even if it's just a rally to show support for something. I mean,
absolutely.
You've seen the idiots at the presidential rallies. Well, I know for a fact, because I was at some of these. The DePaul protest a few months ago. There are sane people in the crowds, but the media and the journalists won't look at those.
They'll focus on the ones making the most noise, right?
Yeah, they'll focus on the really crazy ones. One of them was on The Daily Show, who thought Obama was to blame for 9/11, and that he demanded an explanation for why Obama wasn't in the White House on September 11, 2001.
Maybe because he was still in the Senate. I don't know. Or maybe, I don't even think he was a senator back then. He wasn't even in office yet.
No, he wasn't. I remember this because I was in, I still worked in a grocery store back then.
Oh my God. So, I mean, if the mainstream media isn't going to take the proper steps to report things correctly or to offer insight that is unbiased, what do? Do we turn to the internet? Because that's where, I mean, you find like a commentator on the internet, such as like Thunderfoot, right?
Yeah.
And, you agree with most of his ideas, but then every now and again he'll say something you're like, well, I don't quite agree with that, or that seems too far-fetched.
That's called being human.
Right.
You're not required to, no one is going to agree 100% of the time with somebody. That would just be creepy. At some point you are going to disagree with them. It's how you handle the disagreement. Do you become a frothing, raging loon? Or do you calm down and you actually try to approach them, see if they have legitimate, valid points, listen to them present their side of things. If you need to, present your side. And sometimes you might learn something. Keep an open mind and realize there's an entirely possible chance that you may just be wrong in a topic. I have been proven wrong many times. Follow the evidence. Listen to the logic.
Right, and even when you think you've got enough evidence stacked up to make an informed opinion, don't even make that your final opinion, because you never know. Chances are information could come out after that might sway your opinion a little from there. Like me, I don't have a solid, I may hate Justin Bieber, right? But who's to say that one day he doesn't put out a song and I'm like, man, it's actually okay. I don't dislike that.
Well, it turns out he's a great drummer.
Right?
So, yeah, there's some evidence right there.
Who knew? And he's got a few tattoos. I don't know. But still, it's like you can't be 100% certain on something, even when you think you know everything about it. There's always something that you're going to miss or overlook.
Commentators and critics on the internet are very good about this because they will have to visually show their evidence.
Right.
And back it up.
And what Paul Joseph Watson did in that video was make statements, and they were backed up. Every one of them were backed up by video clips of what he was saying. And I will add that clip on the LOERadio fan page for anybody interested in seeing the entirety of that video. We've got just a few minutes here before we wrap it up, and then coming at you live at the 2 o'clock hour will be Arise Radio, so you guys are going to want to stay tuned for all the greatest in-house music. Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, man. You got any final statements you want to make on what we were talking about here?
Think
before you act.
Think all the time, not just before you act. Think about things, calm down. No big decisions are ever good decisions made in the heat of passion.
Well, but if people were able to think for themselves, we wouldn't need things like parental advisory warnings on album covers or ratings on movies and books and video games. Why, it doesn't seem like they want us to think for ourselves. Like, maybe they want us to be sheep that can just roll over on command.
Well, the rating systems are designed so that parents and people can make educated decisions based on the content of the medium. Where the real idiocy comes in is when somebody buys Conker's Bad Fur Day or Grand Theft Auto for their 5-year-old kid.
And I used to love standing in like a GameStop, and then the kid comes in with his, I want Grand Theft Auto 5. Oh, and then she starts asking the guy at the counter, is this acceptable for my child? He's like, no, it's probably better that he was 17 or 18.
And then they still get it.
And they still buy it. I mean,
the term online, by the way, is squeaker, in case you're playing an M-rated game and you're running into a clearly prepubescent kid.
Yeah, because he sounds like he's a squeaker. Yeah. Oh, there's nothing more exciting than running into a kid in Call of Duty who just knifed you in the back, and he's like, I'm going to teabag your face. The glorious world we live in. So that's going to do it for LOERadio Show. I appreciate your time this morning. Ian, you're welcome back anytime you'd like to come in. I know your work schedule is kind of hectic, so maybe getting out to the show may not be, so often, but you can always call, man. Anytime you got something you want to talk about, you got a rant, I'll let you air it out here at WNUR.
Pleasure, and I appreciate the invitation.
Excellent, sir. So if you'd like to continue to check out the LOERadio Show, you could do so by visiting our Facebook fan page at LOERadio Show. You can also check us out on the Twitter. Follow us using the hashtag LOERadio. But it is that time of the morning. We must be saying goodbye. My name is Tim Radicek. This has been WNUR-FM. And stay tuned because there's more great stuff coming up after this. A little bit of Eminem. Check this out. It's WNUR, freeform programming, Evanston and Chicago.
There's an intruder